Okay, our title tonight is the name of the city, Iconium. Iconium. Not a tricky title. It is what's in there. Did you ever think about, we're going to begin, it came to pass. There's some things in our lives that come to pass. How many here are in school right now? No, raise up a little higher hand. I'm actually in school right now. I'm in school. I didn't see those hands. Raise them up. 3, 4. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're in school?
Sunday school.
So Sunday. Now, apart from Sunday school, I'm in. I did count. I did. I'm in drawing school right now. I'm actually taking classes. I did learn some things, so I'm not going to say that I didn't learn things. And actually, things I had been told. Could I figure them out on my own? I don't know if I would have figured it out on my own before I died. But it got quicker to just have somebody tell me, right? It does help. This is how you hold the cello, you know. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to be told. So do you think that school will come to an end? Yeah, I'm not going to be one of these guys. No, your schooling just begins, it's on and on forever and ever, and you'll never stop learning, which is true. But some things do come to an end. Are you looking forward to anything coming to pass? I mean, we all are going to die one day. Anybody? You don't have to speak yet. What, Zach? You want winter to pass?
Me too.
Well, I wasn't expecting that one. That's okay. There are in here right now, there's 2 or 3 people here taking music lessons. Will that ever end? Well, anything I learned on the piano, I should say everything or anything. I think I learned in 1 year. I took lessons for 2 years. It was time to quit. I started at 19. I had turned 21, and it was time to quit piano. And then I moved on, and then I really didn't start learning the piano until I really started playing in church. I mean, I could do CG, but man, until I got into church and I started playing. There's certain songs, ragtime songs, that are E flat. I could not play Scott Joplin. I talked to that lady today. She said she did Scott Joplin. I said, that guy, that's a tough one. Dizzy Fingers is from the 1920s. Man, these guys could play. And right, I cannot do that. Floyd Kramer, he can play pretty fast, but he can also play real slow. What makes his piano playing? I could learn the technique, but what makes his piano playing unique? He's got a unique style. Anybody know Floyd Kramer? If you could picture his songs. Yeah, it's those slurred. It's called grace notes. Those were what it calls. It's kind of like not a lazy. An ornamentation of the notes. Now that could be something that can be learned. I think I could learn that. I don't think it's real difficult, but I haven't tried it.
He also plays a heavy lift.
And he plays a what?
A heavy lift, what they call a heavy lift, a Southern Methodist lift.
Oh, he does. All right. Well, I've seen some church players, man. Mrs. Thompson.
Yeah.
Maybe some didn't consider her pretty. I consider her pretty good. And she had kind of a heavy left hand. But yes, it's called grace notes. I think I could learn that. I think I could learn it, but I cannot play it. I have to admit, I can't play it. I'd have to practice that. And then I'd have to be shown. I think if somebody, I could probably learn on my own, but it'd be easier to just have somebody, this is how you do it. You just kind of slide off those grace notes. So anyway, it came to pass. Now, we're talking about soul winning here. What does that have to do with grace notes and going to school? And it's like a lot of things. You may plan for something in the future here that it comes to pass, that there is, and we have all S words here tonight, that there is a season to be in school, a season, come on, for women to have children, there's a season for having children. When childbearing begins and when childbearing ends, that eventually that comes to an end. And so there are these seasons in your life. Now, we've been in the IX Center, myself personally, in the IX Center 4 times. And what is the last night for the Home and Garden Show? Huh? Tonight is it. Those that have booths set up in there, are they glad for that? They are extra glad. Now, will we ever be in the IX Center again? I'm never going to say never. Never say never. But anybody here desire to be in the IX again? Highly unlikely, but never say never. You never know. You could get a blood in here that says, man, that would be cool. We'll have at it, man. You've got the booth, you've got this and that. Go ahead, set it up. I mean, we set it up in here. I set it up originally over there. We had the bookstore in there, the church twice. We had Tucker Landscaping in there once. That's 4 times we've been in there. It's a long week, man. By the second day, you realize this is a glorified garage sale, and you get very tired. People can get angry at you when you witness. They did make restrictions. They changed it around, making it a little more difficult the second time we were in there to witness. But there is a season that comes in and out of people's lives. In this season, it came to pass, I would assume they were never at this Iconium before, it came to pass that they were passing through Iconium. Anybody been to a town that we would say, I've never heard of? Give me a name. Man, you name off some of the Pennsylvania towns. I think you're talking a foreign language.
Yeah.
Anybody have a town, or maybe worldwide, that they've been? I mean, Candace was in India for a couple months. She was in India. Don't ask me how she got there. That's a long way to drive a bus. That's the way to live it. You live the retired life first, and then you're going to work later on in life. You know. But her and Timothy, they were in India. But it came to pass. There is a season in which we witnessed at the IX Center. We did it twice. Is that season going to come up again? I mean, how many people have booths there now? When we did it, we realized the big bookstore, they were number 10 in the country, in the top 10. Rainbow was there that year. They barely had a card table set up. They jumped in at the end and had just a regular kind of a folding table. They didn't have really a booth. And they just said, let's just do this. And they were in there. Rainbow had been. Do you remember that? I remember that. You don't remember that? It's okay if you don't remember that. If you don't remember. But there is a season to do these things. And things change, and things come, and things go. 80 years ago, how would you, or let's say 90 years ago, how would you not witness? Or how could you not witness? By means of what? Shall I go back 100 years? Let's go back 100 years. You could not witness using what? A telephone? No, a telephone was out before that.
Telephone was 1870s.
Yeah, that was 1870s. You got to watch Little House on the Prairie. Radio. Yeah, the crystal set. My dad heard for the first time. He said, listen to this. He was probably 12 years old. So we're talking 1918. He said, listen to this. He was in a barn. He put it up. He heard voices over. It was a crystal set. I mean, it's like Frankenstein. And you're working the dials, and you could hear it. Now, it came to pass they were able to witness with a radio. Then television. You mentioned television. Are there other? Nowadays, it's the internet. And Name some internet thing.
Streaming, just streaming video.
Streaming video.
Right.
Is that internet? You're talking internet?
Yeah.
Some things that
It goes through the internet into your set.
Facebook, I don't know what they permit and don't permit, but people are doing that. It came to pass that that is able to be done. Now, people do it with signs, in various times. This is a region that they had not been to. Radio hadn't shown up at Iconium yet. But it came to pass, there was a season in which that we have to grab this time in which we could witness. And so here they are for this season. And it says that they went both together. And so our next point is, it's better than going alone. If you go together, then you have some kind of, give me an S word, you have some kind of what? You have got it, Tammy. You're a priestess. You have support, right? When we went into the IX Center to witness, or when we did the signs and all, listen, we just don't say and do it. We say it and we get other people on board. What do you think of that idea? You might have ideas right now, and you shouldn't hold back on those. We entertain ideas because sometimes you can have an idea that turns into another idea that's a very good idea. So there is the support. Isn't it nice to know that you got a buddy to go in with, right? Somebody for support, moral support, help of some kind. Somebody to when lawyers are arguing, you know, one team against another. Don't you see it on TV? Perry Mason, where they consult, and the other attorney whispers to the other attorney, say this, you know. There's support there, right? There's some kind of support or encouragement that, I know you're tired, that comes along the way. So there is the support. They went, both of them, together. Now in this case, who's going in? Who's going in? The support. Come on, I want you to pray. I know you're tired. Who went in? Paul and Barnabas. John Mark is already gone. He's gone by the chapter before. John Mark kind of takes off in Acts chapter 13, somewhere along here. Anyway, it's Barnabas and Paul. They go in there and they have this mutual support. It always feels a little better when you have a partner in this. Such as, name off some partners. You have business partners. You have disciples and apostles that are partners. They went out in pairs, did they not? What's another partner? Yes, your husband and wife. Absolutely. Husband and wife. Two brothers. Give me two brothers in the Bible. Huh? Now, Mrs. Tucker, that was not a good one.
Jacob and Esau.
Jacob and Esau, Cain and Abel. Let's get off of those guys. Come on. Huh? No, they weren't brothers? Oh, who was brothers? Oh, Jacob and Esau, Cain and Abel. Give me another pair of brothers. Come on. Pete? You said Pete?
James and John.
James and John. Yeah, it's James and John. I was after them. Yeah, but there's probably others you could figure out. James and John would be partners. And he recruited them at the same time, right? As they walked along, they were cleaning the nets, and he recruits them. He had already recruited Peter and Andrew, and now James and John. He gets them partners. Oh, Moses and Aaron. And they had big sis with them too. Huh?
Nothing.
No, nothing. Don't. Hey, listen. You don't have to be afraid to say nothing.
I already said it. You can hear it.
Okay. Well, Moses and Aaron. That's a good one. And they had big sister with them. I can't. Miriam was with them. Isn't it nice to have support? through that. It is a little easier than going alone. Well, what partner did Paul have? But who stood with him? But the Lord stood with me. So even if you feel as though you're going in alone, you've got the Lord going in with you. Amen? So never fear. Another way to have a partner. I'm about ready to do this, and you call somebody on the phone, and what do you ask them to do? Will you what? Come on. You call somebody up. I'm about to apply for this job, whatever it is.
Oh, give me a reference.
Will you pray for me? So you get a prayer partner, somebody to pray for you. Okay? So you have these partners. So you have support through this. The season, and there is the support. The support. I mean, missionaries do that. They go churches to looking for support. And then they do what they're accustomed to doing. They go into the synagogue, that's our third one, into the synagogue of the Jews. So they go into a place where they are most familiar with. They probably, one thing I noticed up here at Oakwood Hardware, right next door, they tore down the junkyard, Burger scrap metals. They tore that down. And what did they build there? Oh, I know. If you're from Parma, you don't know what they built there. What did they build there? No. They built a coffee house there. Which one? A donut place. Dunkin'. Is it Dunkin' Donuts? One thing I noticed, they built a Dunkin' Donuts there. Every Dunkin' Donut shop I saw or see, they all look alike. You can spot them a mile off. You look at it, you don't have to see the words Dunkin' Donuts. They all look alike. What other things look alike? McDonald's. They do build different ones, but generally speaking, McDonald's looks the same. Burger King looks the same. Name some others. Arby's looks the same. Wendy's. You were going to say Wendy's? Well, I'll let you go ahead and say it. Scratch your Wendy's. Okay. Wendy's. All right, they all look as. I wonder if the synagogues look the same.
How about the Red Barn?
Probably not, maybe. The structure. I'm just wondering if they built them the same.
I love the Red Barn.
The Red Barn.
Yeah, they have great food.
They did? Are they gone? Red Barn?
They've been gone.
Oh, the Red Barn has been gone? All right. Well, where
Red Barns are either dry cleaners or karate studios or whatever.
So, karate studios. So the synagogue was where they're familiar, where he's going to go. They speak the language. They know the customs. They know, as a general rule, boy, when I talk to these preachers, one thing preachers like to do, I personally don't like to do this. I don't really participate in that. And they do this. Do you know so and so? And do you know? It's everybody knows everybody else. Do you think Paul walked into that synagogue, and after he talked to the preacher or to the rabbi or whoever is in charge there, that he may have known somebody that Paul knew? There's probably a good possibility of that. So right away, he's able to have an inroad, and you know so-and-so from this synagogue, and oh yeah, I grew up with him. In fact, my mother is the cousin of, and there's maybe even a blood relationship somehow through family and friends through that. So he's in the synagogue, a place where he is familiar. And it says of the Jews, and so spake. He actually then has, that's our fourth one, the speaking. He has this open door in which to speak. Listen, we don't want to go to the IX Center to preach the gospel at the Home and Garden Show if it's against the rules. Now, I'm not saying it's against the law, but it could be against their rules. It is private property. This is not public property. So before you go into a place like that, you would have to find out what are your rules. Would you permit this? You have to do, you don't rent, you don't put the, and by the way, those rentals are not cheap. You rent that space, you're going to be in there for a week, and this is what we intend to do. And one thing that speaks really loud is what in this world? Money. Our money is just as green as the next guy's money. And they want to rent those spaces. And they want to rent as many as they can to expand the show as much as they can. And so as a general rule, they will permit that to go in there. Now, they had permission to speak. They just didn't go in there and start speaking. They could have been invited or given a little spot in which to speak. You have this ministry going on, what it is, tell us about it. You've heard the Messiah has come. I mean, if you were a Jew, you'd be very interested in that. Tell us about it. You know, you saw this on Google. You know, they didn't have Google back then, but you show us where this is. And they want to hear about this. So they're going to a place at a particular season. He has support. It's Barnabas and Paul. And Barnabas is a Jew, so he may have got in on the, what Barnabas, people that had known maybe Barnabas. And got into a place that they're very familiar with and were permitted to speak, the speaking. Verse 1 again. And so spake, that a great multitude, both of the Jews and also the Greeks, believed. What was found in the synagogue? Jews or Greeks? Jews. I would assume Jews only. So our next S word, our fifth one, is the spreading. This news had spread from the Jews also outside the walls. However, it transpired, it wasn't within an hour or two. It could have been a day or two or a week or two. It then spread to the Greeks also, to the Gentiles also. So this news had begun to spread. So there's the spreading of this. That, let's say we put a billboard up on one of these things, and we put one up on the west side, and people do respond. We haven't got responses lately, but when it first went up there, they say, man, I can't believe that's up there. When we were on the radio, I was getting calls. This has got to be a joke. This is a joke. They said, well, I recognize that voice. Who is that? This isn't a... They literally thought it was a joke, and then they found out, no, we were serious. And then when I said my name, they couldn't believe it. Right? That it spreads, and then people say, hey, listen to this. You've got to tune this in and hear it for yourself. You've got to drive by the billboard and see it for yourself. We used to have people take pictures of the billboard so they could show their preachers. They could show their church. The spreading of this. Verse 1, that a great multitude, both the Jews and also the Greeks, what? Believed. Believed. What's our S word for that? The saving. The saving. This gospel message that had gone out saved some of these people. See how much is in just one verse? That's a lot in one verse. To the saving of the people. Don't think that wherever and whenever you do this, passing out a tract or wherever you go, that this is a waste of time. This is not a waste of time, folks. This is not a waste of time. When was the last time anybody ever knocked on your door and witnessed to you? Or when was the last time you ever found a gospel tract? You may find that maybe at Christmas time, but how often does that come up? And when it does come up, are you surprised? You can be very surprised. All right? So it's you that needs to be this light out in the world, to the saving of the soul. And trusting in our Lord. Verse 2. But the unbelieving Jews, here's our seventh one. The stirring, stirred up the Gentiles. and made their minds evil affected against the brethren. There's the stirring. The moment you ruffle a few feathers, right? Madder than a what? Than a wet what? Than a wet hen. If you've raised chickens, man, we've seen a lot of wet hens. If you want to see hens that are in danger, about 2 in the morning, if I didn't get the door locked, you know where they go in, and a raccoon gets in there, let me give you the message they tell you. This would be in the summertime when our doors open and I can hear them out there. You know what those hens are saying? "Buck, you better get out here quick, man!" I mean, and you better get out there quick, because those coons will gut them. They gut them out. They drag them to the fence trying to get them through. I don't know what they're gutting them for. They don't eat anything. I wonder if they're just trying to get the eggs out of them. Because any egg that the chicken is going to produce is already in there. You got an egg this big, then you got another egg just a little smaller. So there's already, if they produce 2,000 eggs, 2,000 eggs are already in there. And they're gutting them out, man. They do what a possum does. Grinning like a possum, a mighty happy rascal. What does a possum do? He plays what? He plays dead. Those chickens will prostrate themselves. They stick their necks as far out as a chicken can stick its neck and pretend to be dead. I don't know if they're pretending to be dead or they're just laying there horrified. I hope that raccoon doesn't come my way. But he gets them all stirred up. The moment you are going to start witnessing, remember this, that someone is not going to like it. And they're going to try to get people stirred up against you. It's against the law. You can't do this. Where is this in the manual for the company? Can you do this? They're going to stir it up. Now they figure this is a good place to be. So long time, verse 3, therefore abode they, speaking boldly in the Lord. Boldly in the Lord, long time. So after they got the enemy all stirred up, they were a long time speaking. In verse 3, boldly in the Lord, which gave testimony under the word of his grace, granted signs and wonders. They were able to do the signs and wonders to be done by their hands. So a long time this went on. So our next S word for this is if we drive by the billboard long enough. We drive by long enough, and you drive by every day. Whatever billboard it is, let's say it's the church's billboard. Do you stop looking? Eventually, and other people may stop looking. They're at the red light, they may not even look. So this area has been, what's a good word for it? The saturating. They stayed there a long time preaching, just saturating this area, getting it well watered, so that every household knows, even those that you hate us that much, well, here's another gospel tract. Now, I'm not saying they did that, but they saturated the area with this. Saturated the area. I mean, these are good. These are all good things that have happened that we need to copy. It gets saturated. Long time speaking. How long is a long time? I don't know. But it was a long time. Verse 4. But the multitude of the city was divided. So what's the S word for divided? The separating. Yes, sir. See, preacher bust there. The multitude of the city was divided, in part held with the Jews, in part with the apostles. And so there's going to be this division, or the separating of people. Separating, and people, I tell you, preachers run to these things, Matthew 24, Matthew 25. And these things are used as a general rule all the time. It's all out of context. He separates, when he comes back, he separates what from the other? The sheep from the goats. But what is that dividing? I'm pretty sure. I haven't been there in a while. It's the dividing of the what? It's the dividing of the nations, folks. It's not the dividing of the saints. It's the dividing of the nations. I mean, you just have to preach what it says. That's what it says. It's the dividing of the nations. But the gospel message separates the chiefest of friends. It separates people. Separates them out. Believers from the non-believers. And those are things that we must expect to have happen. So the moment you put out one of those signs in your yard and the city inspector, the zoning inspector comes along, oh, another religious nut moved into the area. He's a religious kook. Hey, that neighbor of yours, that's a religious kook. You go over there and meet them, you probably find out they're the nicest people on the block. The saturating and the separating. Verse 5, and when there was an assault made, give me a good S word for the assault. They were about to be what? What do Jews like to do when they've had it with somebody? How do they kill them? Stoning. Yes, you got it. The stoning. We're going to throw you a rock party. You want a rock party? I'll throw you a rock party. They're about ready to have an assault, stoning. They're going to start throwing stones at them. The stoning. What is that? Verse 5? Verse 5. And when there was an assault made, both of the Gentiles and also the Jews with their rulers to use them despitefully, there's the word, and to stone them. The stoning. It got to the point, now I don't see that coming to that point in this country, is they're not going to go out there to stone you. They could kill you, and they could stone you. Is it against our laws, though? That's against the law, folks. But I don't want to have to be stoned and killed to prove the law. Unless you want to prove the law, it's against the law. I don't want to go out of my way to necessarily prove that. When they're ready to stone you, then what do you think you should do? Now, Paul did stand his ground sometimes, and other times they did what? Duck. And do what?
Skedaddle.
And do what?
Skedaddle.
Oh, skedaddle. Yes. Skedaddle. Yeah. Skedaddle. It's time to vámonos amigos. The stoning. Now let's see what our next one is. There's the stoning in verse 6, and they were aware of it. They knew. They saw that the stones were on sale. Big ones. They were on sale. In fact, they were even giving them away. Everybody was loading up their guns here. Aware of it, and fled unto Lystra. And now I could have used that word, skedaddle, but I have the safety. They placed themselves in a safe position. They decided, you know what? It's time to move on. Scram. The scramming, the skedaddling, I have the safety. But all those words work really well. They were aware of it, and it says they fled unto Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia, and unto the region that lieth round about. I mean, come on, there's other places to witness. There's other means to witness. When we put up the sign in the yard, it was against the ordinance. And we had our first visitor. We started the church. I know I've told this story. Within 5 minutes that Sunday school started, a car pulled into the driveway. The kids said, "A car pulled in! A car pulled in!" We didn't have anybody other than the wife and children coming to church. We had passed out flyers everywhere, and we put a sign out. Bethesda Baptist Church. It was an easel that you could move. It was a huge sign. We stuck it out by the road. And the kids, Sunday school was immediately over. Kids, where are you going? I mean, Sunday school was over. They all ran to the window. There's a car out there! There's a car out there! Oh, what if they're going to drive up and come to church? Well, here it was the zoning inspector. And he was going to do what? Shut it down. So now I got to walk out there. So we walked out there. I went all the way out there. And oh, please, Mr. Tucker, just don't call it a church. You can call it a Sunday school meeting. You could call it a Bible study. But don't call it a church. Please, Mr. Tucker. You know, I will say he was trying to be reasonable. The city wasn't saying you're going to jail. Please, please. And he said, well, it's too close to the road. The sign's too close to the road. Well, how far back does that sign have to be? Well, at least 10 more feet. So what did we do? I moved it back to 10, 12 feet, put it down there. He said, oh, no, that's not really what I meant. Just don't call it a church. He was not appeased by that. He wanted that sign gone. And finally, he left. He left, and we left the sign up. We had our service. We kept putting the sign up. And you know what? Eventually, they just stopped bugging us. And we only had it out for service. That was it. So for the morning service, evening service, and for Wednesday, we would put it out. There's the safety. They were aware of it and fled. And so comes a time, I've knocked on the door where they have actually said they were going to kill me. I'm going to kill you. And I had a partner, and we looked at each other. I said, I think it's time to move on to the next door. So we would move on to the next door for our own safety. There's plenty of doors to knock on, folks. Plenty of doors. And last of all, and there they preached the gospel. So what is preaching the gospel? It's likened unto what farming thing? The sowing. The sowing. You just move on to the next town or to the next mailbox. We would put flyers. I remember I started a lawn care. By the way, I had my own lawn care business at one time. Are you listening? Had my own lawn care business. We had a paper out, and I had my sisters made the flyers. I put the flyers in the paper, and then on my paper out, I put them in every mailbox. My first call. Who was it from?
U.S. Postal Service.
Thank you so much. You must have worked for them. My first call was from the U.S. Marshal, from the postal,
Inspector.
the postmaster, the inspector. If you don't, I'm just a little kid. And if you ever do, I'm shame, double shame, everybody knows your name. And so I put them in there, and what were they going to do? The next time you do it, we're going to, no, they weren't going to handcuff me. What were they? They were going to, what are they after? Just what everybody else is after.
You've got to pay money.
After money. You had to pay for every one, first class mail, sticking them in there. I had to pay first class stamp for every one of them. All 5 cents, or no, it was 3 cents back. I don't know what it was back then, but it was pretty cheap. I didn't pay, we just didn't put any more flyers. I had enough calls from there to, man, last thing I want to do is cut grass, But I had plenty of business, just from that one seeding, one sowing. Sowing. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Just keep sowing the word. Amen. Iconium. It was a place, and there was a season for it. And in this church, we're going to have different seasons. We just need to be aware of it and exercise our right and our privilege and our calling to sow seed during those seasons. Shake hands before leaving.